supposed to be the showstopper, and it ran pretty good there. But since then, I've rebuilt it. I got these things called blower bushings. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear this thing apart. I'm going to do the opposite. This one I'm going to tear it apart, show you all the components, show you how it's built. And this thing, we're going to get this running before this hour is through. And you can see it run. And I just discovered I sell these kits. I've only sold like 5 or something, and I give them away too, you know. But anyways, this guy in Seattle, I live up in Seattle, and this guy named Chris Rowley, he bought one of my kits. He saw me at KeelyNet. Anyways, he called me up. He goes, you take a neodymium magnet while this thing's going, and you hold it at a certain very precise position, about right here, and it can make this thing just go like a bomb. It's unbelievable. And this just happened about 3 days ago. So I was going, oh boy, I'm going to show this down here. And this is, and so what's happening is this magnetic field is so strong in these magnets. There's supposed to be some argument about whether magnetic fields really rotate or not, and or they're just instantaneous in one direction. But I think this proves they rotate, because what happens is, the motor. Let's say the motor's going in this rotation. It won't work if you hold it over here. But if you hold it over here, this is above the center line of the motor. If you hold it over, it won't work straight on. But when you hold it to this way a little bit, and at about 2:30, you know, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, about 2:30, and then you point it at the center of the, and anyway, so what we were figuring out what's happening. You guys will see this, but I won't spend too long about this because you'll see it. Anyways, it's got an intense magnetic field, so it's like a water wheel. When this rotor is going down, it hits it with a slam of the field, because the field's going like this. And it's just an amazing thing. We got it to go about 4,000 or 5,000 RPM. And what happens is your current goes down. When you get the speed, you start drawing less with these motors. So it's, not only you get a lot more torque. So that's what I really hope to accomplish today, is to get this thing running. And I've been working all night and all day on this thing, and just an hour ago I got it running, and it's one of these coils is in the attractive mode, and it's throwing the whole thing off. So it's just like So, but I have some plans for this, and this is kind of a messy one. This is an older one, but this one has little slip rings, and this one runs too. We might be able to get it going. And so what kind of my style is I like to use reed switches. I like to use a spinning trigger magnet. This trigger magnet is real interesting because you can adjust you can adjust the pulse width, or the amperes, the actual amp draw to the motor. See this little magnet here? Everybody see that? Take that little slot there, and when you have it straight up and down, it's full. If you make that slot like this, when it goes past the reed switch, it won't trip it, because you've changed the phase angle of that magnet against the reed switch. So it's a real easy way to adjust your amperage draw into your motor, how long your pulse lasts as it pulses. And I'll show you how this works really quick, because I kind of skipped ahead right there. This little reed switch will trip this spinning magnet here will trip a little reed switch, and it's adjustable. See that? So you can have it advanced or retarded, and then you can lock it in. And when that trips, it'll trip a relay over here. I usually use MOSFETs, but I got some 20 amp solid state ones for this. And that'll send your power in, like pow, pow. See that? Pow, like that. So it's a pretty simple thing, real simple. And you don't have to use reed switches. You can use Hall effect. You can use anything you want. You can also use mechanical commutators. I did a lot of work. You've seen my website with these roller commutators and all these different things. But for now, I'm going back to these, because people don't like to put things with mechanical commutators in their garage or anything. They start fires and they wear out and all sorts of things. And with these pulse motors, what happens is you get these pulses in, but you get this intense backflash. And backflash just ruins everything. It ruins commutators. But they have plenty. These days, though, big MOSFETs is the way to go, because MOSFETs go for a long time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear this apart and show you how it works, because that's what I'm going to have to do anyways. But this is supposed to be the showstopper. I told Jerry Decker I was going to have an over unity motor right there on the table, and it ran really good, and we had an 80-watt light bulb across it, resistive load, but he wants more tests to prove anything, but it ran really well. This one's a really cool design. Okay, now this one has normal, when you wind a magnetic coil, you just wind coil, magnetic wire, which is wire with a thin coat of enamel on it. You buy it at Radio Shack. I'm trying to make these simple things that anybody can build by going to a hardware store and Radio Shack, you know. And they don't require, if you were to build like a radio-controlled airplane, this would probably be a little bit simpler than that to build, for instance. And so anyways, I have a way of winding my coils directional. It's like a microphone. There's microphones that pick up everything all around you, and then there's unidirectional ones that just pick up a force field. So it's similar to what you want to do. You want to concentrate your flux when these coils collide. So I don't know, there's a thing called the EV gray motor. Probably about half of you know what that is. This Keeling-net, Norman Wooten actually brought some 2 old motors. It was really cool, and they tore them apart. Anyways, the basic thing to this is the EV gray motor, which is taking a coil here and a coil here, and you wire them to be north against north repulsive. It's called bucking magnetic fields, okay? And so what happens is you have a rotating magnetic field. Over here you got a rotating magnetic field. When they collide, at the height of your power, you're actually going to get no current draw when you get a whole bunch of power. This is a theory anyways, so you know, don't worry about that. But anyways, so what happens is you have north against north, and because current flow is associated with magnetic field rotation, like if you have magnetic field rotation, when you have electricity, you have heat, magnetic field rotation, and current flow, okay? You know, you have those 3 things. Now, if you don't have magnetic field rotation, that means you aren't going to have current flow. And so this is the basic theory about the whole north-north bucking coils, about theory step A about this. And what happens is because the magnetic fields are colliding against each other and rotating in each other, it freezes and shocks it for a second right when it reaches its big saturation point. And now your current flow will stop at that instant too. So if people wonder why these things hardly draw any current, that's for a very good reason. And the second step B theory of bucking electromagnets is that you have matching time constants. And maybe some of you know what I mean already, but what it means is you have a coil over here and a coil over here. When you turn off the power to a coil, it's still energized, and you have oscillations in it, you know. It doesn't just kick. The first oscillation is a big kick, too. That's the big power one. Now, and you have more than one oscillation, and they all happen at a certain time. So now, if you can get this other coil to have the same oscillations as this one in time, so if you looked on a graph, it would just be exactly the same like this. What you'll have, because it's north against north, the initial firing, when you cut it, all of a sudden you have south against south, which is also just as much power as north against north. It's still the repulsive mode. So what you get, this is the first theory about these north-north bucking electromagnetic coils, is that you get no current flow at the height of your power. The second thing is that your oscillations will match up. As long as you have your coils wound the same and of the same length and everything, you have to have matching coils. It's real important. In electromagnetism, if you have a coil that dominates the other one, that is just a little bit stronger, it will dominate and take everything over. And now you'll get this attraction magnetism, which conventional electric motors are made from, DC motors. And when and you want to have this knock-away power. And also there's absolutely nothing in the textbooks about bucking electromagnetism, as far as I know. There's nothing, I've never read anything. There's nothing in there. And so, and it's the most powerful way to make an electric motor, so go figure from that. So, and it's true, see? And so I got my start in the back of popular science, fuelless electric, build a fuelless motor, 300 horsepower fuelless motor. I'm sure about half of you have seen that. Back in the classifieds, creative science. I sent for the plans. It was a 6,000 volt, 200 amp motor, and it was like, oh, sure, you know, I would kill myself within the first week. And you know, so that's, and then he also sent me a patent to the EV gray motor when I sent for these plans. So it was obviously, this thing was an EV gray motor that you could build yourself. And but anyway, so I went a whole other direction. This is about 4 or 5 years ago. And I decided to make a low voltage run running off car batteries. I want to be car battery based because car batteries are all over the place. You can't get a better source of power. You can always hook a inverter up to them and get house power too. So I made a low voltage EV gray motor. And then the one thing that makes me different than an EV gray, besides being low voltage and having round coils, I think the cores and coils should be round because we have rotating magnetic fields, but I might be wrong about that. It's just what my kind of style of it. So anyways, what I found is that you can take permanent magnets, like you go to a hardware store like Lowe's, I don't know what they call it down here. You just get these little square magnets and a little hole in them. And I have them positioned here. This one's kind of hard to see. But now what happens when this thing rotates, let's say it's going around this way. Now, so what happens, okay, here comes the firing. It goes click, it hits the magnetic reed switch, pow, it fires all 4 simultaneously. This one's colliding, this one's colliding. So you get a nice kick, pow, it flips over, and that's a basic EV gray motor. Now, if you take a permanent magnet, and if it's going this way, you put it right here. See that? Right after. And what happens is this, after the current is turned off, this thing hits that oscillation, that initial oscillation, which is all the power actually of coils, is that when you collapse a coil. And then you can also put another one down here. And so, this will speed up your motor like 4 or 5 times. It's just incredible, and it also lowers your draw. So most of you already know about this anyways, if you've seen my site. But that's what I do, is I have a low voltage EV gray motor with permanent magnets in it. So when I went to the KeelyNet thing, I said I'm going to make kits for everybody. So I got the hotel room. I got there a couple days early, and I just made a whole bunch of kits. And I brought, so this is the kit. It's about the simplest thing I can think of. Now you see these big red cores. You're wondering, why does he have big, huge, red, long cores here for? This is another thing that's really interesting. If any of you are building any sorts of motors, Bedini type or Adams type, when you ignite an electromagnet, let's say it's pushing north, I'm sorry if I'm talking really fast and sound like a nerd, but I'm just going to talk really fast and sound like a nerd. So anyways, so you have north against north. Now this electromagnet, this guy in Florida told me this, you're pushing here, but you have just the same amount of pull on the back side of that in energy as you do the push. And if you don't do something on the back side of your electromagnet, you're wasting all this power. And I go, hey, you're right. So what I do is these are called the stators, okay? If I start babbling, the stationary cores and coils are called the stators. These are called the rotors because they're rotating, okay? Rotors and stators. Okay, on the stators, on the kit motor design, you can pack this with pickup windings. And that means just windings, just wound all the way there, wind them all the way back, and just make big windings here. So it has kind of a magneto effect. A guy named Hector D. Perez calls it linear induction. So what happens when you ignite this electromagnet, you're going to excite this whole core. And now this is a DC pulse motor, so it's DC getting turned on and off really fast. When you turn it off, you get this back reverse kick in direction of flow of the magnetism and the current in there. It's actually big spikes come back. So basically, I'm sure most of you know this too, but if you look on a scope, it'll be a little, let's say it'll go down a little bit, and then it'll be a big kick like this. So it is actually it actually creates an AC form of power when you pulse DC, because you have this kick. So and everybody knows when you have AC current, you put a rectifier across it, either one single diode or a rectifier. And now you can draw all that stuff that comes off. Some people call it back EMF. I like to call it rectified recoil, just for now, but anyways. So, what am I saying? So that's, okay, the rectified recoil, I got a little confused there. Okay, I'm going to tell you, okay, right now I'm going to tell you the 4 power systems of this motor right now. The rectified recoil, what I was just talking about, that's when when you turn off a coil, you have a big flash, and you also have oscillations in between the pulses. All this is happening. Now you can rectify that, put it into a cap, and then you can use a second switch and then pop it right back into your battery again at a certain point, or you can put it into a separate battery. At the last exotic research, I think most of you were there, what I did is I ran it off one battery, and I charged another battery, and this thing just went up like crazy, and this thing hardly dropped at all. And that's what I did last year. And what you can do, instead of doing a simple thing like that, you can, instead of putting it directly into a battery, you put it into a capacitor first, and then you use a second switch that also has adjustable timing, and then you can pulse it in at just the right amount of time. So what John Bedini does, and Robert Calloway, if any of you guys know them. And I call this an accumulator cap, because you're accumulating all the energy between the pulses. And between the pulses is where the magic is. That's where you want to add power, and that's when you want to take out power. You don't want to do it when current's being applied to everything. And with these type of motors, you only have like a 10%. You can adjust how much of a little pop you want to go in there of current. And so it's about 10% is a normal duty cycle, is what you'd call it, which is the percent of the rotation that it takes electricity. And I'm driving everybody out already. So, what was I thinking? So the duty cycle. So that means you have 90% of the time there's no current being applied. It's just rotating free. And guess what's happening to those coils? They're still energized. They're, like you take a big fire hose, you fill up a swimming pool with it, and you say, okay, close the valve. The water doesn't just go, okay, it doesn't stop. It like sloshes back and forth in there. So that's the way these coils, after you turn off the current, that's when you, first of all, you get this big enormous kick, which is also amplified much more on these motors because you have north against north. So you have an induction compressing that way, an induction compressing this way. You need a squirt gun or something. Do you have anybody? Okay, what was I saying? Okay, so you have I would say an amplified and compressed magnetic fields, and then you cut the current, and then it kicks back. So this is a way to get more back EMF than you would with just a coil against just a regular coil turning it on and off, or even a coil against a magnet when you have a coils against coils. And then, of course, I threw in these permanent magnets here. Okay, I'm going to show you how the permanent magnets go. Okay, I've kind of confused probably half of you, but are there any questions at this stage? Like any guidance? Yeah, well, I'll try to answer.
Your back EMF sounds like Joe Newman, but I think you may be doing better than he did.
Yeah, you know what? I don't really know how Joe Newman's motor works, but I read about it, but I try not to study other people's things on purpose. I'm just like, all I'm in is just this. But from what I've heard about Newman's motor, he has just an enormous amount of coils, right? And so the electricity never really gets a chance to get through there. It fills up, and you cut it and comes back, and so he extracts it, But I think his thing is great, and I think it works and everything. I think he's just been repressed or whatever his problem is. I don't know. But I like everybody. There's nobody I don't like, So even Dennis Lee I don't mind much, Because I figure he's so ridiculously a scammer that it's like ridiculous, right? So maybe he does whatever. I'm not going to deal with him. Never mind. Erase all that. So, yeah. Yeah. I don't want to say any people's names. Yeah. What?
When you said the windings on the stators, are those mirror windings, or do you wind them both identically and then move the stator one to the other side?
Oh, yeah. Okay, he asked me about the windings on the stators. Yeah, these are exactly the same as these. This brings up a whole new question that I could go on a tangent about, is the rotation of the windings, whether you go clockwise with your windings or you go counterclockwise. But right now, what I got here, I have this way of winding, this guy named Jim Leatherman, who used to write me 100 emails, and he died about a year ago, and he's built like 24 Bedini motors. He's a real free energy guy, you know, he's an older guy. He had a heart attack, but he told me, what you ought to try is directional winds. And so the way I wind, just to answer your question, he was wondering about the stator windings, if any of you are wondering. So the way I do it is I wind it, just wind it. And on these ones, I go, I start, here's the head of the, here's the knockout. I start here, and on these ones, I'm going this way. And I wind all the way to the end. And this is on my website, too. Go all the way to the end, cover it with tape, and then run it, the wire straight back, right on top of your all the winds, and then put a piece of tape over there so it won't chafe for your next row of windings. Then you make sure you do your next windings all the same direction, always the same direction, piece of tape, and like that. So that's my directional wind. And
on the other one, are you starting the same direction?
yeah, now the other winding is going the same way. But I'm experimenting with reversing the direction on the other one and do a counterclockwise against a clockwise, because this guy at this Keeley net had this 30-watt, kilowatt free energy thing that keeps blowing up, these two Texas guys. And they said that, it's real. I gave them all, I took them back to my hotel room. Same there, I have just, my hotel room's just covered with junk all over the place. It's just a big workshop right now, you know. And so I took those guys back and I gave them all these free parts, and they told me their secret. And their secret is that counterclockwise is equal to volts and clockwise is equal to amps. And so I'm always doing either all counterclockwise or all, but I'm thinking if I put a counterclockwise against clockwise together, I might get watts now, because you get, real energy. So this is something I really, really want to try. In fact, and so that's why I made all these kits. So I don't know if it's true or not, right? I won't know until I try it. So, but it could be true, So, so what I'm doing is I've kind of standardized this down to a simple kit. So now if I want to try that, all I got to do is pop these out and throw the other ones in and see what happens. Okay, you can go to TeslaTech.com. This guy filming, Josh, right here has it. And there's another one, it's the very last page of the internet.com. Okay, that one, a guy named Don Adstedt, who's been on the web a lot, he lives up by me. And I've been down to his house about 3 times. Really super nice guy, really smart. So the very last page of the internet.com, and that has a link to my website. And he took a bunch of videos of my motors. And I have a little commentary, so that's kind of fun. But Don, like he puts right there on the internet, he goes free energy, and he puts a little check mark, and he goes over unity, a little check mark up there. So it's like, God, And so what's happening to me is when I go to labs, the people tell me it's free energy, right? And, it's like over unity. And so I don't worry about that anymore because everybody's telling me that now, okay? And I just was at a big lab over in New Hampshire, and they don't want to say it is or isn't right now. And when I was at Keeley Net, they didn't want to say it was or wasn't, but I did a great demonstration. I think it was running over unity when I did. But anyways, so the very last page of the internet.com or TeslaTech. And Don Adstedt has this magnetic ramp that's really cool, that really works. Yeah?
How do you measure and show that it's a more efficient motor, that it's more powerful for the same amount of voltage?
Oh, okay. He wants to know, how do I measure to show that it is more out than in? Good question. So here's what you do. Okay, you get a scope. if you take an ammeter, this is very interesting to all you pulse motor builders out there, all 5 of you or 6, is you when you look at an ammeter, let's say when you put it on the DC, if you look at an ammeter, you put it on a DC or a volt, okay, oh God, let's say you use a shunt instead of an ammeter. Does everybody know what a shunt is? Oh, yeah, so, well, anyways, it puts a little resistance there, and you can use Ohm's law. You can figure out the amperage with a shunt instead of using an ammeter. And so then you put a scope across that. So now you see your volts. And so anyways, what will happen is it'll say like 2 amps, let's say. That's pretty heavy drawing motor. And and so you'll look and see where it goes down on the cursor, or going up if you have it flipped over. And you'll find that is 2 amps there'll be little sawtooth spikes like this going into the motor, and the space in between, right? So what you get to do now is you figured out the amperage, but that's figuring that it's a straight line at 2 amps. But see, it's actually pulses going in. So then you take your 12 volts power supply and you times it by that 2 amp of the peak, and then you get to divide it in duty cycle, right? And you know, this is like, it's pretty big fudge factor in this duty cycle, and also your shape of your waveforms. I got a scope, but I don't know if I'll get to hooking it up. But okay, so that's the pulses going in. Now, what comes out of the recoil? Now, that's when you rectify. There's a lot of people who say that you can get over 100%, like just textbook science. When you pulse a coil and you have it reach resonance, you can get what you put in back out because of the kind of, you know, it just is a big, huge flash, and you can use real quick Schottky diodes and put it into a cap. But anyways, you get, let's say you just get 80% or 60% back or that. So when we were testing it in New Hampshire last week, it was drawing 500 milliamps on a meter, not doing pulse cycles, and it's putting in what I was getting out of just one rectifier across the switch. This is how you draw. If anybody wants to know, this is the secret to free energy with pulse motors, is you rectify across your switch, whatever your switch is. Just if it's commutators, you just put your AC legs of your rectifier across that switch, and now you got DC power, and it'll contain all that back kick of everything. Now, you put that into a cap or a second battery or whatever you want to do. Now, okay, so now you get the duty cycle in, and now, first of all, you take what is being made on the recoil and you calculate that, you know, as output, right? And now you get to do your pickup windings, step 2. Now, you can do any sort of gauge you want. If you do thick windings behind your motor coil, you get lower voltage but better amps. And if you do really thin windings, you get a whole bunch of voltage. And so now you can you take that out and you measure that, what you got. You rectify that, so you get the pickup windings. So that's kind of the secondary power output. Then you got your shaft, because it's a motor. And so you can calculate that with a Prony brake. You get a little 1-foot bar. John Dean has it on his site. I have it on my site, how to build one. It's real simple. You get a 1-foot bar and you have a little screw, kind of just so you can squeeze it, tighten and squeeze it. So like, let's say your motor's running 2,000 RPM, you cut it down to like 1,500 RPM, and you put it at that 1-foot bar onto a gram scale. And then you can measure, you can actually calculate horsepower then, and then from there you can calculate watts. And then the final one, and Bruce Peralt will be interested in this, and because he's doing the same thing with his glow tube research, I believe. And I have these things called splatter coils, and it's on my website. And I've been to all my good motors right now are actually in labs right now. I have this philosophy: you'll receive what you give, you know. And so like this one guy, really good. I won't use his name, but my best motor I ever made, January 1st of this year, this guy wanted my motor. He's in Pennsylvania, and he's given me really good advice on the internet. So I sent him my very good motor, best motor I ever had. He's got it there. And he hasn't even got it going for this long now. He's just like sitting there. So it's kind of disappointing. It happens to me. But I sent my other newest best motor I made is a very small, only 3-inch rotor, and I have little slip rings. It actually came off an EV Gray motor powering it, and it's down in a lab in Texas. And then I have my motor with splatter coils over in New Hampshire right now, and these guys are looking at it, trying to get it to run by itself. You know, disconnect the battery. And I think they're going to be able to do it. Okay, so these are called splatter coils, okay? This is how I collect the energy. You can call it stray flux energy. What do you, high voltage stray flux energy. But what happens, here's the way I explain it. When you have a north against north coil, this is unique to the Gray design, I believe. You have this flux colliding, and it just turns on for a sec, so smash-o. So you throw 2 tomatoes at each other in midair, and they're the same weight, size, and they're throwing the same speed. When they hit in midair, if they're the same, they'll create a halo. And when I was in Dallas, you know, that's where they shot John Kennedy. I explained it by he got shot simultaneously in the front and the back of the head at the same time, right? So now you create a halo around here. Nobody thought that was funny in Dallas, did they, when I said that? So, anyways, so it's the same thing with this magnetic field flux. There's all this energy, and it's a strange form of energy. It's not just like eddy currents or something going around the coil. It's like a compressed flux that gets shot out the side at high speeds. So what I do is I collect this way with cores, steel cores, and very, very thin windings, and very thin, like 63 gauge. So it's like fishnet. And these are, I didn't wind these myself. These are solenoid coils. Sorry, we're going to do a workshop. We're planning on doing a workshop, but I started talking too much. So, anyways, so you push it. Here's what I found: is you position them right here. See that? Right in the side, like this, and I put another one here, another one here, another one here, and these things work great. I tried all sorts of things. I've told this story about before. This friend of mine, he's a machinist and he's a guitar player and plays in my band and stuff. And sometimes, and he was a hippie in 1970. He went to San Francisco, and he says everybody's dropping acid. You walk down the street, you hold your hands out. People put acid in your hands. There's that really powerful Owsley acid. I've never had acid before, so I don't know. I don't want to lose my mind. But so he said that they were making, oh God, I really shouldn't be talking so much, but they were making rifles for the U.S. Army, AK-47s that our Vietnam they'd use in Vietnam War, so our snipers could shoot people and they think they're Russian rifles. So he had a project, and him and these hippies were off, and he said they built a free energy motor that ran by itself. They took off the power, it ran by itself forever. And so I said, oh, well, how did you do it? You know, so he made a little diagram, and he says he took clamshells. I've told this story before, so some of you heard it. So first they copied the flux lines. They took a coil, cut a hole in a piece of glass, and they stuck it through it. It's not like putting it like this and seeing the butterfly patterns. They've actually put it through it so that they can see what the fields, flux fields look like going through, like this. And he found that it was 4 thick lines, circular lines, and then smaller ones outside. So what they did is they took pencil leads. In those days they had real lead, pencil leads, and they put them in clamshells exactly where those flux lines were. And he put them on the side here and side here. And he says he can't remember everything, you know, of course, but he says he says then it ran all into, he took all those and ran them into a diode, and he must have had coils around these things, like little ferrite pencils. This is what I figure he had. And then coils, and then you run that into a diode, and then he positioned these clamshells like this, like kind of capturing the energy here and here like that. But first he said he had to be really precise about where those flux lines are. You didn't want to put these flux catchers where the flux lines weren't going. So anyways, so he told me this whole story. So I went home and ran one of my motors, and I took some pliers. And I went like this, and all of a sudden, whoa, the thing just sped up because the oscillation of the rotor was catching the ferrous material. I mean, it went up like 4 times faster. I had an ammeter on it, and I was noticing my draw was going way, way down too. And so that was what, and then I found permanent magnets facing the right direction were really what you want to put in there. So that's how I discovered my permanent magnet flux bridges. That's in my website. And, but I kept going on that, and I decided, well, there's stuff coming out the sides too. And so, and this is unique to this north-to-north stuff. And it's a compressed field, and it's turning on and off really fast. And when I was at Don Adstitz, he calculated how much voltage I get, and I'm getting 1,000 volts out of these. And what's really nice is you can adjust the, you run it through a spark, just like the glow tube. You run it through a spark plug. Go down and buy a little chainsaw one and a spark plug. And this high voltage will just knock your arms off coming off of this. This thing's running off like 1 watt maybe. And it's not that big a deal, but you get a lot of high voltage. And now what you can do, this is the best test I've ever done, is I took this high voltage and I ran it through a spark gap, and then you can adjust that. Tesla didn't have diodes in his day, so when he wanted to use it, make a diode with his stuff, he'd run it through the air. And then you adjust how long that is till you get kind of the resonance where it'll jump one way, but it doesn't want to go back. And you get this. And so that's what you do. You run it right into the positive of your battery, right here. And Venislav, there's a guy named Venislav, he's a Yugoslavian guy, and he was writing me emails, and so he met me at Dallas, and he wanted to buy one of my motors. He wanted to buy this motor here for 1,500 bucks. So I had to go to the thing, but he didn't buy it. He just left. But anyways, before the conference, we spent all night building this in my hotel room, and Venislav had Chernetsky as his professor in Russia. And so he explained to me what the Chernetsky effect is, and some of you may have heard of that, but what it is when you make a spark going through the air, you know, it draws clusters of electrons. It forms clusters of electrons that are negatively charged, and then they go right to your positive of your battery, and so you get an electron flow going into your battery, charging it up. I had it going for 28 hours, absolutely no drop. It's my world record. And no drop at all on the battery. Using the rectified, using the splatter coil energy, collected all 20 of them at once, so I get a nice zippy spark, run it through a spark gap, and then put it into and then adjust that till you get like 17 volts on your battery, reading all the time with a digital meter across here. And that's the best I can do as far as keeping your battery running the motor charged up, is to use this high voltage spark through a spark gap. And I'm sure Bruce Peralt knows just what I'm talking about here, you know, because and now here's the best explanation I've heard is a boat propeller. When they design boat propellers, there's something called cavitation where it churns and it creates air bubbles and it destroys your propellers. Okay, and you can do the same thing in a swimming pool. Go to the swimming pool out here with the sunshine coming in. Put your hand underwater and go like this. Just push it. And you'll see a bunch of bubbles will appear behind your hand, air bubbles. And fairly large ones, you know, you can see them. And so what you're doing is you're making air out of nothing. I mean, it's underwater, you know, how's that happening? And so what's happening is it's creating kind of vortex fields, and it's drawing oxygen bubbles, and it's making bubbles. Anybody can do it. Now, if you can do that with electrons, that would be a great thing, because now you're drawing electrons from the surrounding environment. Yeah, and you can. It's called the Chernetsky effect, and that's what you do with it. You make a spark jump going through. A spark plug's a great thing to use because they're made for it, and you can adjust it real precise to get your volts up and stuff. So this is called the Chernetsky effect, and he had kind of hard to understand English, but he said that it creates little clusters. It makes little bubbles full of electrons, and they get followed right in there, and because they're negatively charged, they want to go to the positive of the battery. So I really wish I could demonstrate that, but I got all these coils. These are solenoid coils, 110 volt solenoid coils. You just got them surplus. And then I take steel. I found that steel, I've tried ferrite, all sorts, and just regular old steel bolts. You get soft steel, and you stick it in there, and now you put a little AC meter across here, and then you can experiment while the motor's running. It's really fun, and you just find your nice position. You go, oh, there it is, and you get like 7 or 8 volts off of just one of these things, and that's what the meter says. That's what the meter says. But actually, the meter, when you read on AC meter, it disregards that initial spike. It doesn't even count it, and it's just reading the oscillations afterwards, because the spike is tremendous what you get from these. So anyway, so that's my splatter coils. It's on my website too. So, into your question, like the in and out of the whole thing, so what I do is, why I'm saying, I don't even want to say it's free energy. I just let other people say it for me is what I'm doing right now. And, but anyways, I think it's about 4 times. Lindemann thought it was about 4 times when I was over at KeelyNet, and other people there. Anyways, but anyway, so here's the, just to do a summary, first you get the rectified recoil, which is the classic way to pulse motors. You got a pulse motor too, and he's getting, I think, 30%, I think you're saying. 60%, yeah. He's got a little pulse motor. Anybody who builds one of those Bedini motors you read about, or just any sort of pulse motor that just goes pow, then no, you can take all that recoil, rectify across your switch, and he's getting 60%, for instance. Okay, then I have my pickup windings. Now your pickup windings can be as big as you want. And if anybody wants to build any of these kits, I sell these kits too. For $350 for not built, just all the stuff, the relays and the cores. And you got to wind your own coils though. I want everybody to wind your own coils. Probably no one will buy one. But at KeelyNet I sold like 4 kits and I gave about 2 away. And it's great when other people are doing the same thing to you. It's so much better because you get a phone call. God, I was screwing around. I just discovered something. So anyways, okay, so I have the rectified recoil, and then I have the pickup windings, and then I got the shaft, and then I have the splatter energy. So I have 4 different generation things. And each of those can be so efficient that they can reach 100% on their own if you really want to. The pickup windings, if any of you make these, I'd suggest using really thin windings and just get as much high voltage as you can so you can do nice spark gap back in your battery. But that's another thing. So how much time do I have? Is there anybody in authority or anything, or I can? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna now. I was in New Hampshire last. Oh, what?
You said you could test the output, like put a pony brake on it?
Yeah.
What will it put out? How many watts output?
Okay, I used to do prony brakes all the time. This is before I figured the permanent magnet, so I got a lot more power. But I was getting 80%. You know, like the thing draws. When you figure the duty cycle and the amps and the volts and the draw, like let's say it's 1 watt. These things draw. That means I get like 0.75 watts on the shaft, right? And what's really neat was when I was in New Hampshire, the first night the guy was just treating me like the new Messiah. He just thought I had everything going, and then everything fell apart after that in the morning. I think they went in and tested it overnight and screwed it up. They put me in the hotel. But anyways, what was I going to say? When you grab the shaft, okay, now there's one thing about a shaft, but when you grab the shaft, put it under load, mechanical load. Now you got an engine, what can it do under mechanical load? Now what was really great last week at this New Hampshire lab I was at is when we were testing the recoil from the, going into a battery, second battery, we just took that recoil, the pulses turning on, like I was talking about, capturing the backflash. It would increase when you put it under mechanical load. So it was like, wow, that's a good thing. And I guess it's just like setting your spark plug gap on your cars. If you have a longer duration of time they're closed, when you do open them up to fire your plugs, you get a bigger kick, So anyways, And so, but then also everything's relative. See, when you test these motors, it takes a long time, like 6 hours at least, because you want to test everything under no load conditions, just high winding as fast as you can, see what you get out of it. Then you want to put it under mechanical load conditions, and then you want to put it under electrical load conditions, where you actually put a light bulb or some resistive load across there. And that's another thing where these things improve under resistive load when you put it under resistive load. So you had a question. Oh.
If this really works, what's your next step?
Well, what I'm doing right now is I'm making kits that anybody can build these things for themselves. Like, you know, try it yourself. I have a lot of plans, you know. First, I want to make a self-running thing where I can disconnect the batteries and have the thing run by its own. I was hoping to have it done by now, but I don't. But I'm really close. But when I get there, it's like the whole world's going to fall in at that point. So, but what my plans are, my products I want to make is a rotating battery charger, something that charges up batteries faster than I'm already doing this. In fact, that's about what I'm doing now, is a battery charger. And you can charge about 4 batteries at once while you run off of one. And so right there, that's a great thing. And the other thing I want to do is build some air conditioners systems, maybe, because this doesn't produce any heat at all. And I think that'd be something that would really save the world. And then we also have some big motor things going on, like dragster motors. Step all these up with 800 amp MOSFETs. And so we're thinking about that, but I don't know where it's going to go. Maybe this is as far as it goes, you know, for all I know. And I don't think so. We're going to, tonight, after this, we're going to go to my hotel. I'm room 116. We got a sliding door, and you can just walk right in from the place there. And so we're going to have a party. And I got all my stuff, and I'm going to tear this thing down right now. It shouldn't take very long. And we're going to get this going. I want to get this going before this is over, but I don't know. So, but I don't know. Supposedly I'm supposed to make millions of dollars if this lab in New Hampshire shows that it is actually, without a doubt, irrefutable over unity. And this guy in Texas says it is right now. He's had 3 of my motors now, and he's printing that right now. And these other guys are printing it, but I pretend like it's not right now because I want to keep going. I'm trying to improve the motor. I want to improve the motor. That's all I'm concerned about. If anybody wants to put a generator on the shaft, whatever they want to do, I don't care. So, but I really want other people. I'm going to Vancouver, BC next weekend to do a show, and I'm going to do a workshop too, which I want to do here, but I keep talking too much. And then and I might go to Colorado too. So right now I'm kind of on this circus, this kind of free energy circus thing. It's kind of a sick thing, but that's what I'm. Okay, so. What? Yeah. Yeah, batteries are pretty much capacitors. Those new batteries they sell with the cells, the round cells in them, those are just like ultra caps. They charge up really fast. Those are really good batteries to use. But yeah, I know. I know I'm already there, right? But I don't think the world's going to, until I get about 20-to-1 ratio. I think that's when the world's going to go, hey, wait a minute, you know. And right now I'm thinking about 4-to-1, but I don't have a self-runner, so about half the people believe me. I wrote this song, it's like, nobody believes a goddamn word I say anyway, okay? And so when I was at KeelyNet, that's the way I felt, you know. It's just like nobody believes it. I can just talk and babble, but nobody believes anything I say, because you can't do that, you know. But it's true, you know. It's all I can say.
Is the bigger motor got enough power to turn the
Yeah, it's got a lot of power, and it's also the power that it makes is dependent on how many volts you put into it. If you put 24 into it, this thing's just a bomb. You put 36, it's just incredible. So I'm keeping it 12. But yeah, if you can just turn an alternator with this, you know, car alternator, that's what this was going to be for. That's why I went with the 4 stators. So, you know, it pulse. So you got to round, and I was going to put this an alternator on the shaft on this, or some sort of generator thing. And I got some more of these too. I got a lot of stuff all over the place. And okay, unfortunately, I don't have a runner right now, so we're going to have to build a runner. Now we're going to do, okay, wait, you've been, let me ask you a question. Oh yeah, oh that's the whole new thing I just discovered. I was telling some people. Oh really? Okay, talk to me, I'll see, yeah. Okay, the thing I just discovered like 3 days ago, okay, I met this guy named Chris Raleigh. Did I already tell everyone about this? Did I already? Oh, did I tell everybody about it? Okay, yeah, okay, Noibidiums. When we first tried this, when I first went over his house, we built a motor just exactly like this. I'm making them all exact, my kit motors, because it's like standard, you know. Now when you know, it's scientifically way to do it. But anyways, when we first did it, it would just wash it out. You just go, whoosh, you know, it would just wash it out. But then he called me up, he was screwing around with it, and he found it. It's back over here and over like this. But now, yeah, I already told you, I've been going on a, sorry, deja vu there. So, but now if you were to use like a Noibidium as your core or something like that, or now you're probably going to have to kick up your voltage and make it match the power of this, you know, so you can actually, when you do pulse your coil, it would actually cancel out it, whatever you want to do. But I want to keep it at 12 volts, so yeah, this is a neodymium, however you pronounce it. And so that's what that's what I wanted to show you guys today. So I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do is this is all about ready to wire up, so I'm gonna wire it up right here, even though it would be better if it was already wired up. How long do we have? Like 10? Because maybe he wants to wait a little longer so he can get more prepared. Okay, well anyways, oh really? Oh, see? Yeah, you must have been standing in the right spot. Yeah, the guy over here, he leapt out of his chair because he got hit by that cold air. It's when I stepped it up to 24 volts that it just went like a bomb right towards the last of that thing. And 24 volts is incredible. Yeah, this one runs, actually. It just, okay. Yeah, oh man, that's the whole subject. That's going to take 10 minutes, but this is bifilar one. This is supposed to be the showstopper motor. What I do is wind coils with the wires side by side together all the way through, not just a single wire. Then I run a battery here and a battery here. Let's say one wire is red, one wire is green. This one fires the red half of your coil, and then now the green wire is going to be a generator wire. Now that you capture the recoil and the oscillations of that with a rectifier, and you put it into this battery when this one pulses. And then the next firing is a flip-flop circuit. Now next firing, you fire that green half of your coil with this one, and you take everything and you dump it back in here. And that's a great thing to do with bifilers. And this thing really goes. And that's what I got here. And what I did is I have 4 stators on this one. And I take they're also bifilers. Probably not all of you are going to understand this, but the motor, the outsides are bifilers. But I only use 1/2 of the bifilers on the outside, and I wind 350 feet of pickup windings connected to that half of the bifilers. So I have actually 390 feet of wire that's all a pickup winding on these outside ones, and then only a 40 feet length of motor coil winding that actually takes juice. So it's kind of like a Tesla thing. There's been this thing going around the net a lot, where this Tesla coil, where they just have like one wind, and that's all it takes electricity, and then there's enormous other winds that are pickup windings, and that's the same thing here. I got 40 feet that take the juice, and then I have 350 that are pickup. Yeah.
Are you using Hall effect switches or what for your
Oh, these are reed switches.
reed switches?
Hall effect would be much better and more durable if you wanted to make it.
Find Hall effect switches up where to find them. Look all over San Jose.
Oh, DigiKey? You go to DigiKey, D-I-G-I-K-E-Y? Yeah, they'll have them. You can order them. They're pretty common things because they use them in automotive all the time.
In San Jose, some of the electronic stores have them, but there's not one of them who knew what they were.
Yeah, well, I believe that. Oh, yeah. Okay, we're going to get this going in 5 minutes, this motor here. And you guys can come up and kind of feel how much power it has and stuff. And why don't we just break down right now, and then while he's setting up, we'll do a workshop. I wish I had some more time, though. Why don't you go talk to Bruce, see if we can go like 10 more minutes or something. So it doesn't matter, we're all late. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That's standard operating.
Okay, so I'm going to get a soldering iron. Here. And solder. Okay. This is what I really want to do, is just do a workshop and not even talk, but I always talk way too much. He's coming up next, Bruce Peralt. And I just sent a representative to talk to him. Here, I know what I'm going to do. Okay, this one actually runs, because I just ran it. It wasn't running that good. It's really interesting what I got inside of here. If any of you want to see, they're called blower bushings. To commutate the electricity into the rotating shaft, they make these things that are made out of graphite and copper. I just discovered these last week when I was in New Hampshire. These guys have you ever seen blower bushings? I go, wow, those are perfect. And so you just put them around your shaft, and they conduct electricity. They're graphite copper.
We got enough time to start this motor up here.
Okay. Let's start this one. This one actually runs already. Okay, what I'm going to do is this motor runs off, there's a red circuit and there's a green circuit. So,
You got spices?
yeah, we got a bunch of cables right here. Oh, you want to snips? And remember, room 116, everybody's invited. Because all night long. All night. I'm not kidding either. He's gonna be, but there's probably about 6 or 7 people for starters, and we're just gonna build motors, and I can get this one running, this one running, this one running, that one running. We'll get them all running. And if any of you want to go by there, you're all invited. It's gonna be really fun.
Which hotel are you
I'm at this hotel. I went to go to my room because everybody's staying at the Hawthorne. I went over there and they told me, oh, it's all filled up. You can't come in here. And so I kind of lost for 3 hours. I came back and just got one here. Yeah, 116 here. It's just down ground level and there's a sliding door.
Well, you get one motor running 2 motors, you get those 2 motors running 4 motors.
Oh, yeah. That's really fun. You can actually dump everything into the other motor and then dump everything back into the other motor. And eventually that should be a self-running condition, you know, if you can actually get everything more, you know. You always lose resistance in the... Bruce Peralt's going to be coming up pretty soon.
We got enough time.
Okay, watch how fast. Watch how fast. Okay, I'm going to pull out... I'm just going to run the red circuit right now. So I'm going to split this motor in 2 because it's really going to be disappointing if you guys don't get to see these run. But if you really want to see these run, go back to my room. Because I'm paying like $79.91 with tax, so they might as well do something with it. You know, rent for a workshop. Okay, so what you got here? Oh, you could get this going right now.
Yeah.
This one's almost ready. So here's the feed. Here it comes in. Okay, here's the. I was hoping, the idea was I was going to show you how it wires up as we get it going. So I might as well do that. It comes in the bearing. It goes through the electric bearing. I put conductive grease in there. Wire from the bearing, it splits the wires, and it winds both coils parallel. The outputs of both coils parallel comes out into one, and that comes out the other bearing. So you send it in a bearing to the rotor coils, out the bearing. And then, now right here we need a wire, like unloosen this clamp. And now, so now you take it out this other bearing. Now it's already, the electricity's already gone through the coils, the rotating coils. Now you run it into a MOSFET here. Just attach this to that. Stainless steel. And on this one, I made a plastic shaft out of PVC. It's my first, when I was in New Hampshire, they gave me all these materials. And anyways, but never mind about that. Okay, so now that goes into the relay after it goes through the rotating coils. And then from the output of the relay, it now goes to the stationary coils out here. So what I did on this one, and it's the best way to do it, is you put the switch in the middle of the circuit. First you send it in the rotating coils, switch it, and then send it through the outside coils. For some reason, it's a balanced condition. And I got this email from this guy named Walt Rosenthal, and he actually called me up and he sent me something in the mail because I wasn't checking my email for a couple weeks, past week, you know. And he was saying, you know what you need to do is have two switches. Don't turn off your coils on and off with just one switch. Have two switches. One switch in the beginning from the battery, and the other switch to the ground. And when you do that, now you get double the EMF coming out because you get to put rectifiers across both of those. And because you have switches on both ends, because everything's kind of going back and forth, sloshing, pa 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 pa, you know, as it's thumping away, going. Now, when you have switches on both sides, you don't have all the spikes are caught. And he was like really excited telling me this. And I called him up on the phone, talked to him for about an hour. And that I just discovered a week ago. So I put two switches on this. So this was going to be experimental, but we aren't going to do two switches right now because we want to just get it going. So we're just going to do one in the middle. Okay, so now here's the output. Now that goes to this. And that's what I put these things there for. And you need a Phillips. So now, right now, here's the power supply. In fact, I'll put this on right now. You can see how fast, this guy's going to have it going in a sec. He's built some motors too, I can tell he's a pro. So, don't worry, a little bit of time. It's not dark out yet. That green wire is the output of the MOSFET. And that goes, either one, they're all the same. They're just like connections I put into the plastic.
Are you going to patent those battery connectors?
No. They are cool. Oh, these, oh, speaking of patents, I'm gonna work and, also you guys, if you guys get cell phones, get those things to put in your ears. They're so great, you can talk and do all sorts of stuff. I mean, at the same time. I'm just babbling about that. Yeah, so anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these magnets out of here because so I'll show you these magnets. This is having trouble. Okay, now you want to hook,
Was it the same one?
now you want to hook this yellow wire to that clip. Look at this. Okay, so now we're going to go so fast you won't believe it. So, pulling. Yeah. At KeelyNet, everybody is laughing at me all the time. Is anybody there? Yeah. Well, God, every time I'd say something, everybody would crack up laughing. It was making me sick. And I was trying to be like serious, but I don't know. I was in a funny mood. But okay, now this goes to the battery.
Okay.
Yeah, you might as well hook it to here or something.
Okay, and then get another wire going to the battery?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, yeah, just use a clip. Yeah, in fact, just clip that like that. Yeah. Okay, so now we've almost got this Now we can show you the power of this thing. You guys want to feel the power of? You want to feel the power?
Feel the power.
Come up here, and when he touches this, we're just doing a straight crowbar. Boom. Okay, when you touch that,
Let me get this.
let's see if it works. Oh shoot! What the hell? Okay. Oh well, duh. We have it going through the relay. So if you bridge that with a jumper, just so we can do a quick test. Okay, so now this is just everything bypassed. We're just hooking electricity through the coils, and we're just going to touch it real quick. And you'll find it's really interesting with coils. They get hot really fast. I mean, if you hold this for over a half a second, it'll get hot. Yeah, these coils. But when you pulse it, just like a millisecond, they don't ever get hot. They stay cold. It's just a weird thing. So you always want to pulse coils with real fast stuff. Yeah. Okay. Now watch this. Yeah, see? There, some motion. See that? That's not much power. Okay, so there's just one little blast. It'll send it spinning about that far. See that? If you want to, anybody want to feel that?
Oh, okay.
This is kind of a weak battery too, but that's, anyways. Okay, so we got that going. Now, oh boy, we got to solder these. We got to solder a wire to each one of these little doohickeys. There, there, and there. 4. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. I know you guys are getting bored now. And solder guns right here.
Or solder.
Hey, Tim, can you help him? You need some wires. Okay, this is countdown. At KeelyNet, the same thing happened. We had a pit stop. We had all these guys all around the motor, and we got it going, and we ran it up there, and it went great for a little while. I won't talk about this. These magnets. When I take 2 magnets, I stick them together. They're actually bucking magnets, and I tape them together. So these magnets are kind of north-north already. So I think they create some. I found I get more power out of them that way. It's a little trick I do. I don't know if it's better or worse, but it tests better. So, okay. Okay. So I'm taking out 2 magnets. Now I'm just going to run the red circuit right now. Oh.
How fast will those reed switches work?
Reed switches go really fast. Really, really fast. Solder's right here. Yeah, the thing with reed switches, if you look in the specs of a reed switch, they'll say milliseconds open and close, but that's like fully open and fully closed. But if you can get the reed switch just open, just they go really fast, faster than the specs do. Yeah, really fast. Yeah, millisecond. These are usually a millisecond. Yeah, the thing with reed switches, they're really fragile.
Is that good?
Yeah, this is perfect.
These are
Yeah,
going
they
in.
break easy. That's what always breaks on these is the
I
reed
gotta-
switches.
I gotta use the motor real quick and bring it over there because that's what power is.
Okay. Maybe we can, maybe Bruce wants to start setting up. Hey, Bruce, you want to start setting up? We can, like, move everything back and then still keep working, and you guys can see it go back there. Something to go. That's, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Well, it's kind of, we should take the stuff off first, some of it. But yeah, we can move the table back there. That's a good idea. Okay. Oh, he's going to carry his? Oh, okay. Okay, this is this is the conclusion. We're just going to move things back, and he's going to move things forward. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, yeah, so